It's been over a year since the Astroworld tragedy and almost 5 years since Travis Scott's last album. And during that time, he's gone from being an A-list celebrity, one of the most prominent figures in hip-hop, to being a bit of a shadowy mystery. So what exactly has he been up to since then? The Astroworld catastrophe delayed the release of Travis's fourth studio album, Utopia, and his musical output has decreased considerably since then. Plus, the music and brand deals he's been a part of since haven't been received the same way as his earlier work, begging the question of how the album will perform if and when it finally drops. So today we're looking at what happened to Travis Scott and where his career can go from here. When Astroworld dropped back in August of 2018, Travis Scott was on top of the world. It was his biggest release to date, and it debuted at #1 on the Billboard charts, selling 537,000 units in the first week alone. It featured over a dozen guest appearances from some of the biggest names in music, and it received widespread acclaim from critics and fans alike. The following year, he dropped his Cactus Jack compilation tape, which featured appearances from many of the artists on his label, including Sheck Wes and Don Toliver, and of course, as well as regular collaborators like Quavo, Young Thug, and Lil Baby. While the tape didn't have the same level of cultural impact as Astroworld, it was still well received by fans and critics, and it showed that Travis could cultivate talent while also managing his own career. 2020 was also massive for Travis. Astroworld was still extremely popular, and he landed a huge brand deal with McDonald's, which was a great success, and it solidified him as one of the most influential figures in modern music. It was also around this time that Travis revealed his next album would be called Utopia, which he claimed was unlike anything he'd ever made before. He began teasing the album on the second anniversary of Astroworld in the summer of 2020. He tweeted out a handwritten letter thanking his fans for support, which ended with, "Let's keep the ride going, I'll see you in Utopia." Over the next year, he continued to drop hints about what fans could expect from the album. In a 2021 interview with CR Men, he said he'd been reflecting on themes of medicine, nursing, talking, language, and communication. He wanted the album to sound like a utopian state. And later that year, he also opened up about the sound of the project. He told WDD he was in his psychedelic rock phase. He also said that he was trying to create an entirely new sound of music. In his words, "I might spend days banging my head against a wall trying to figure it out, but once I do it, it's like ultimate ecstasy." And fans finally got to hear new music in the summer of 2021 when he premiered the track Escape Plan at Rolling Loud Miami. The song was released as a single alongside another track called Mafia. Both came out on November 5th, 2021 to build hype for his performance at the Astroworld Festival, which kicked off that same night. However, the events that unfolded that night left 10 attendees dead and countless others injured. It put an immediate pause on the Utopia rollout while Travis rushed to do damage control. In the immediate aftermath of the tragedy, he lost multiple brand partnerships and was removed from several major festivals. So instead of gearing up to release an album, Travis was forced to stay out of the spotlight and work on reviving his image. He took a long break from performing and releasing music while the Astroworld situation was sorted out, and the Utopia rollout was put on an indefinite hiatus. But by April 2022, he began to slowly mount a comeback. First, he announced he'd be headlining at the Primavera Sound Festival in South America later that year. And then in May, he appeared at the 2022 Billboard Music Awards, where he performed the track Mafia. Not long after that, he was featured on the song Hold That Heat with Future, his first official track since the tragedy. So a year after the festival, Travis slowly began to inch his way into the spotlight again. But the question remains, is there still enough hype for Utopia, or has it died down forever? Throughout the latter half of 2022, Travis got back in the studio and put some work in towards rebuilding his career and reputation. He appeared on two of the biggest projects from the second half of 2022, including Her Loss by 21 Savage and Drake and SOS by SZA. And unlike some of his other recent songs, these two features were considered some of the best he's done in years. He also had several appearances on the Metro Boomin album Heroes and Villains, plus he's done some work behind the scenes and directed the music video for Future's track 7:12 p.m. But even though he's slowly been making a comeback, it feels like Travis has lost a fair amount of hype. Despite being a featured guest alongside his regular collaborators, he's yet to release a single since the Astroworld tragedy, and the music that he has dropped hasn't been reviewed positively by everyone. In November, he linked up with Pharrell for a collaboration called Down in Atlanta, where he seemed to be testing the waters for a possible comeback. But despite linking up with one of the most legendary producers in all of music, the song seems to have come and gone with little impact at all. In one review, the Harvard Crimson wrote, "Down in Atlanta is a high-quality single, but it isn't a good sign for fans who hope to see a return to Travis Scott's heights of musical ambition and originality." Many people also called his songs on Metro Boomin's Heroes and Villains some of the lowest points of the album. Pitchfork wrote that Travis Scott sounds half asleep on Raindrops and even less compelling on the throwaway song Lock on Me. Anthony Fantano also claimed in his review that Travis was responsible for the weakest performances on the whole album. Throughout his career, Travis has faced some accusations of sounding generic or derivative of other artists, but he usually overcomes these criticisms by pushing boundaries with how he presents his creative ideas. Whether it be innovative production, unique brand deals, or exclusive concert experiences, Travis's strength has always been as a cultural curator more than a traditional lyricist. He was never the most technically proficient rapper or storyteller. His talent was always more in the way that he can pull many different ideas and package them in an interesting way. But ever since the Astroworld incident made it so that Travis has to have a low profile and be quiet for a while, it's made it difficult for him to be a major tastemaker in the way he always did before. In that way, it inevitably stifled his creative vision and ability to bring unique products and immersive experiences to life. In the same way, what Travis lacked in technical ability, he always made up for ambition and willingness to experiment. But his recent musical output has been so much safer and honestly more boring than what fans have come to expect over the years. He just doesn't sound as hungry or inspired or motivated as he did on his earlier records. And in that way, his work today is far less interesting than it used to be. So while expectations for Utopia may have been high in the past, it seems like Travis is now on the back foot with whatever he does next. If he comes through with a genuinely exciting project that delivers on his promise to create new sounds and break boundaries, he could easily win his fans back. But if all he does is deliver a generic, simple trap album devoid of substance and personality, it may be tough for him to turn things around in the future. There is still no official release date for Utopia, but based on recent comments from Travis and his team, it seems like an album will arrive later in 2023. So at this point, all fans can do is wait and see whether Utopia can live up to the hype.